So I've been playing Tomba. Nostalgia is a thing, and it's mainly because of that I wanted to play this game, but also because I wanted to see if it actually holds up. Many people have sung songs of praise for this game before, but I also know that a quick whiff of nostalgia is enough to make even the most flawed experience seem like good old times. Anyway, Tomba is a game made by the now defunct Whoopee Camp, a company founded by Tokoro Fujiwara, the creator of Ghosts and Goblins and the producer of the Mega Man series. Now, Whoopee Camp only got to make 2 games before inevitably going bankrupt. Those 2 games were Tomba and its sequel. Despite both of these games getting favorable reviews, they didn't sell very well. And I can kinda see why. I mean, they're both extremely Japanese games, and even for Japanese standards, they're a little out there. Regardless of that though, both of these games have amassed a very small but dedicated cult following over the years. Now, the game's story follows the adventures of a young pink-haired boy called Tomba. And one day,
7 evil pigs appear.
These pigs transform this once beautiful and peaceful land into whatever the fuck this is supposed to be. Now, these evil pigs have some sort of weird gold fetish going on, and have stolen a shit ton of gold because of it, including a bracelet belonging to Tomba's grandfather. And of course, this calls for revenge. So Tomba goes on a quest to retrieve the lost bracelet, stop the evil pigs, and return the land back to its original state. Gameplay-wise, it's a 2D side-scrolling platformer with some mild RPG elements. I say mild because there isn't a whole lot of leveling going on. You get stronger, and you get some new weapons here and there, but overall it's more like a Metroidvania than anything, backtracking included. Now, the game has a quest-based structure, so you travel around the game's various areas, talking to NPCs and doing things for them. The game really doesn't skimp out on the amount of quests you can actually do, and it can be a little overwhelming at first to start a new quest every few minutes. You aren't in any kind of hurry to solve them though, as you can pretty much solve every quest in the game at any given time except for the main story quests. Now of course, with this being a 2D platformer, there will obviously be some platforming. Now, I'm a little torn on whether or not I actually like the platforming. I mean, it starts out innocent enough, but some sections in the game involve some really tricky platforming. And let's just say that the jumping isn't exactly perfect. I feel like Whoopi Goldberg was aware of this though, and rather than fixing it, they give you a bunch of items to help you along. Now, this isn't necessarily bad, but I did kind of feel like I was cheating when I was using the umbrella all the time to slow down my landing speed. I mean, the game doesn't do anything to stop you from doing this, and said umbrella was actually acquired not too far from where I felt I needed it most. Like I said, it's like they knew the platforming wasn't as tight as it maybe should have been. Still, most of the gameplay's fine, and everything I just mentioned really only applies to just a few areas. Now, it's with the before mentioned backtracking where a slight problem does arise. Thing is, the game has a real strong sense of adventure. I know that sounds a bit vague, but bear with me here. At the start of the game, every area seems new and fresh, and it's a lot of fun to keep uncovering all of these new and interesting places. Now, because of the game's quest-based structure, you'll find yourself going back and forth between these areas a lot, which at first is fine, because as you keep going, you'll keep finding new areas, until you've seen them all. Now, the problem is that when that happens, the game is far from over, which means that the last couple of hours only involve you constantly going back and forth through the same set of areas. So that strong sense of adventure I mentioned before kinda disappears. The game starts to feel less like progression, and more like Whoopee Camp was just trying to force in some additional length, while already being out of actual content. Now, the game does offer a lot of different ways to fast travel, by offering a wide array of items and shortcuts. This would have been great if it weren't for the fact that using these items is a little bit tedious to do. Thing is that every time you need to use an item to fast travel, you need to open the menu, go to the items tab, look for the item, and select it or equip it. And I know this sounds like it shouldn't be a complaint at all, and I feel the same. But the menus are just really awkward to navigate, and to make it even worse, every time you use an item you need to sit through some loading time as well. Now, during the majority of the game this isn't a problem, but near the end you have a shit ton of items to scroll through, and the slot the item sits in constantly changes whenever you find new items or use another. So when you constantly need to use a certain item, it becomes a really tedious process. I kinda found myself wondering why they didn't go for a Legend of Zelda style equipping system, cause during the last few hours of the game, it ironically reaches water temple levels of menu opening, only then with multiple items instead of just the iron boots. And again, it's only a problem for the last hour or two, but it still made finishing the game feel like kind of a drag to me. Still, I'm not really sure how much the game itself is actually to blame for all of this though. I mean, these are very standard conventions for games like this. Much of what I just said about fast traveling and item management could just as well have been said about a game like Skyrim. Anyway, the game's real charm comes from its world, aesthetic, and characters. The game really does a great job of creating a vibrant and lively looking world, and it does so in 2D. Also, because of the 2D graphics, I feel pretty comfortable in saying that the game holds up fairly well. I mean, some of the backgrounds look a little finicky, things like the water not being animated, but overall I'd still say that the game actually looks pretty good. The game also has a pretty cool soundtrack. I mean, it's not really anything truly special, but it's certainly the kind of music that'll get stuck in your head for a while after playing. It certainly looks like a lot of time was spent on making the game look and sound as distinct as possible, and I definitely say Whoopee Camp succeeded in doing this. And like I said, the game's various characters are also a big part of its charm. Thing is, all characters in the game have their own little backstories and personalities, and most of their dialogue is presented in a charming and humorous manner. All of these things combined really help with making the game's world feel alive. The game doesn't do the standard ice level, fire level bullshit. Well, okay, maybe it does a little. But it definitely has enough of its own charm in terms of world design to at least make it feel like something truly original. In any case, I do really love this game a lot, even though I know that a lot of that love is based on nostalgia. Still, I feel fairly confident in saying that it's still a pretty good game regardless. And it's definitely worth checking out if you like quirky adventure games. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to puke some chicks.